So Rahul, who's your pick?
No, to me, this is a very coffee with Karan sort of a question.
It is,
He's just saying,
course.
is Katrina better or Deepika better?
So don't give the same answer that they do.
No, I completely second Mohit in terms of as long as they stay hungry, and I've said all three are good friends. So, and I think they're doing amazingly well. They're doing a great job. So, and at the sort of scale what they've been able to build in such short time, I think that is commendable. So,
Are they all thinking about 10x? See, the issue, I think the underlying premise of the question is that if you are not thinking about 10x growth early enough, and I think Mohit gave a very good answer. His way of thinking about 10x, he says, is fundamentally different from what his competitors were looking at. And he therefore feels a little more comfortable about his ability to therefore to navigate growth and not stumble and fall, right? So in your mind, and again, this is, as you said, it is just to get some interest going, but you could talk about Micromax, because everybody has the same problem, right? In these fast moving markets where until you get to 10x very quickly, it's a winner take all kind of a market, and then eventually things dissipate very quickly as well. So what is your take on that?
So thanks for easing it out. On Micromax, yes, I can speak.
Sure.
We were there to solve a problem of consumers, that how can we solve something or other in their day-to-day life, whether it is a long battery phone or whether it is a dual SIM phone. We came up with the first dual SIM phone. We solved problem for girls. We were the first one to come up with a phone, with Swarovski. So at that time, we realized that we will never follow the roadmaps of the Nokias or Samsung of the world, because that is what, that is what we call as a honey trap. Because the moment you see, acha, this phone sells very well, and you'll say, okay, let me also make something like this. I'll better price it. I think that's a honey trap. You should never follow the roadmap of others. Try and identify those gaps, those problems, and then start, addressing those problems. So I think that is the solution.
Excellent, very nice. Vishal, I want to come to you first. One way people are thinking, one is technology, beat your own path, don't follow your competitor's path. One other thing that people are thinking of 10x is, look, I must turn global very early on. And Zomato is a classic example of a company from this city which has taken this approach. Are you seeing this happen on a broad scale? Do you see even young companies thinking 10x and saying, hey, let me think beyond India very early on?
Some companies, their thesis is Indian market, and that's a different genre altogether. But then there are other companies like the ones you were mentioning earlier, say InMobi as an example. Their thesis initially was Indian market, but they've turned global. The first market they went to was not US, it was actually Indonesia, for whatever reason. And I think in that regard, companies have to think global.
And Google is following them now.
Yeah, Google's fine. So his brand is global. Obviously, he's most famous in India.
Yeah.
And I don't think you cannot be global, but I think the map of the world is changing quite dramatically, especially in the technology space. So if you look at the 1.8 billion devices that got shipped out last year, 68% of them got shipped from worlds which are China, India. If you look at the internet penetration or adoption in India, it's like 3x of China now in the last year. So there's a new map that's being drawn, and I think from that perspective, even though you're a global company, it's not, and you're Indian, that's just an added benefit for you to be able to penetrate this market.
So Yatin, IBM had IBM and 7 dwarfs, right? There was a dominant player. All of the rest of the people put together were called 7 dwarfs, right? Google is Google and, bunch of 3-4 dwarfs, right? Same is the case, you can go on and on. In the tech business, you tend to have winner take all kind of businesses. But you can't imagine Infosys or TCS, no matter how well they do, it will be TCS and 7 dwarfs, right? So service businesses are not set up like that, right? I mean, there is not a winner take all business in that sense of the term. So do you think in your case, you have to worry about this 10x scale at all? Don't you have the luxury in your mind to just build it layer by layer, never mind if it takes 20 years, right? Which he can't do, because who knows what the phones will be like 20 years from now, right? So, so it's a kind of, much more fast paced, not so fast paced.
Not so fast
Is
paced.
that, does that call for a different mindset to look at your 10x growth as you
No,
think
definitely not so fast paced, but yes, there is always a competition. So you look at 10x, it's a bigger picture, but you focus on when you reach 0 to 1x, which is the most toughest part of your journey. When you start off and you reach 1x, that's when you look at your platform, your people, your product, your processes. Okay, if I have to go to 10x, I have to standardize the delivery mechanism, irrespective who is dealing with the customer or what service the customer is getting, his experience with the organization remains the same. And that's when you can, go on the standardization spree by hiring the right people, training the right proposition, where irrespective whatever customer acquisition you're doing, your mechanism and your satisfaction to the customer remains constant. So most of the learning happens at 0 to 1x, I think. So once you reach the 1x and your acceptance of product, your service, because more of a touch and feel business, all we are doing is ensuring that the standardization of delivery mechanism is technology driven, but the client, when the client meets our team members, those can never go off the business. There has to be, that scale then is dependent upon the number of people you can hire, that kind of domain knowledge, expertise. So it's very difficult to grow so fast. It's not fully IT enabled business. So with IT enabled businesses, you can see, like Uber 4 years back, what was it, and it's today in more than 60 countries. So that kind of scale will never happen in a brick and mortar, I would say, business.
10 years back when I came back, there was a lot of excitement about medical transcription. Yeah. Right? Yes. And now, one point that people are making here is that our entrepreneurs are getting spoiled because they are substituting raising of capital as the goal in itself. Is there any advice that you have to offer from your own experience? And this time, Rahul, I want to start with you. Where you feel that they should keep their balance and that's not the best way for them to think about the future.
I think most important thing is how close are you with your customers. So if you're closer to your customer, you understand their needs, their requirements, you will evolve. Second, of course, in terms of raising capital, I think raising capital is not a benchmark of your success or of your organization. I think that's just a progression that, okay, you need to move forward. In terms of how do you spend that money, if you, of course, different companies will have different priorities. To me, number one priority will be people. You need to get right sort of people. You need to invest in right sort of people so that you get right, a perfect rub off from those people. Because you might be doing, you might be great in something, but so for example, I create products, but I think I'm not that good in finance, for example, or maybe other departments. So you need to invest in right sort of people so that you create that whole periphery of people who are around you, who are guiding you in different aspects. But certainly, raising capital is no benchmark of success.
So, but Mohit, the people say that this is like the casino thing, In casino, it is well documented that when you have the jingle of coins falling, for the next 5-7 minutes, everybody pulls the lever faster. This is well documented, right? I mean, although nothing is going to happen, but they got, this is a human effect. Ab chalo laga do, ab isme dam laga do. So this is what seems to be happening to the entrepreneurs. How do they prevent this? I mean, this is a natural human reaction. अरे यार this company is the same size as me and has raised $5 million. मैंने तो raise नहीं किया. अरे मैं भी जाके अब कोशिश करता हूँ raise करने की. It's natural human. What should they do as a young entrepreneur to stay focused on the basics that Rahul is talking about?
See, they need to know what their business is and how much capital do they need, right? Your capital requirement should not be based on what somebody else in some other industry is raising, right? As an entrepreneur, first of all, you need to be very frugal with everything, right? So you should save your equity as much as possible, raise as low as possible, right? There is no need to actually go and raise money because somebody else has raised money. But as long as you have a plan of what you are going to use that money for, right? It's fine to raise capital. I don't see that why you should not raise capital. If raising capital helps you grow faster, beats your competition faster, I think that's the absolutely right thing to do, and that's the most important thing that an entrepreneur needs to decide when and how to raise capital, right? But it should not be influenced by external factors of what others are doing. It should be based on your internal business plans, what you want to do, where do you want to utilize that money, what is the potential return that you want to get. Because at the end of the day, don't forget that when you raise money from a venture capitalist, he also expects some return out of it.
Sanjeev is looking at you.
Yeah.
He's
So I don't think that there is a answer to whether people. I don't think that argument that people are now raising more and more money is also the. It's not purely correct, right? I won't say that because the industry is growing faster and there are new industries, actually new consumer behaviors that are being created, that requires some investment into that industry, and that's why people are raising money. I don't see that I don't see raising money as a bad point, but yes, over capitalization or may be in certain cases bad for you. But out of the 100 people that raise money, I would say still 80 are justified, I think, in my opinion, to raise what they have raised.
Vishal, you have to give us, if you are a counselor to person, it's not a logical answer that you have to give. You have to deal with this emotional part.
I'm not giving you a logical answer.
If you have to deal with the emotional aspect of this,
I won't give you a logical, but I'll give you a perspective.
What will you say to them?
I'll give you a perspective because it's not. This is not my first venture. This is my fourth.
Exactly.
So, and it's not easy to raise capital in India unless you have property that you can go leverage. Angel investing is very new, and even if you look at the numbers, it doesn't stack up into any realization. It's a drop in the ocean given the kind of emotional commitment there is behind entrepreneurship right now. I think that while raising capital, if you have the ability to do so, and you can convince somebody like Sanjeev and say, well, I have a model and you can actually help me grow it, you should definitely do it. Whether that's the final qualification of your success, I don't think so, because I think you have to prove yourself after that. But coming back to something more anecdotal to my experience, when we started the business, if you think of how audacious our idea was, which is that we want to create a direct-to-consumer services brand out of India, hadn't been done before, in an area which we had to convince a lot of people that, this could work, both from a delivery perspective. You can acquire customers, you can deliver to them, you can make them happy, and you can expand the business. At that time, the realization was that in Series A was 3.5 million. 3 to 5 is basically the range that you actually do in A. Now A is changed to whatever it is, 5. I mean, Jet.com did an A round last month for 250 million. So there's a new dimension altogether. But that also comes with harnessing bigger opportunities. I mean, you meet small, medium-sized business today, 200-300 crores is a normal number. It doesn't make you flinch at all, because that's, he's saying a distributor who's selling phones is 400 crores. It's not something that makes you flinch. So you do need the capital. And I think if you have the ability to raise, you should raise more. We've done 5 rounds of financing. I wish we'd done lesser. I wish we'd spend less time on the road. I wish we'd spend less time, convincing investors. Obviously, we have a great syndicate, but I wish we'd spend less time doing that, and we'd had more initially, which at that time we didn't. So my advice to somebody who's sitting across, if you can, and you have a convincing proposition that's proven itself, you should go to Sanjeev and raise like 100 million.
Absolutely. So, Yatin, I want to put you a little bit in a spot here. Now, your guys, most of them, are wedded to this PE hedge fund guys, are wedded to this alternate idea. The more money, odds of success become higher. Do you personally subscribe to that?
I think so. The phase we are currently on, of course, the guy who's writing the highest check, the entrepreneurs more want to be in discussion with them. And if you see last 2 years, what's also happening, what's been successful in Silicon Valley, those guys have been early investors in those companies. They're just coming with those same ideas, with IT-enabled businesses, and helping Indian entrepreneurs to change, to think from the size and scale. You see classical investors of Ola, or you see investors of Flipkart. The entrepreneurs themselves didn't have an idea of the size and scale the business can grow to. The same investors which are there
that is the Vishal's point. Yeah. But I mean, just to Flipkart, won in India not because they had more money. They got more money because they won in India. I mean, you guys will probably back me up on that, right? Google did not win because they had more money. They won the battle against, at that time, Alta Vista, Yahoo and others. Because they won, they had lots of money. Facebook raised its first money from Axel, one of the most successful investments of Axel, when they had already got 768,000 users. They were in spitting distance of 1 million users. They had won the battle, right? So this notion that somehow people are winning because of money, even is not true even for Flipkart, right? So do you worry, or should we worry as a team here, and we should open it up for questions, should we worry the fact that this new notion is taking root, that whoever is able to get more money will be the winner? And I don't think, that's ever been the history of our industry, really the case.
Classical thing, when the market is very heated up, this is what it
Okay, I'm glad you said this, not me. I've been getting brickbats for saying that.